Chosen one, they're going to jail because they couldn't take your life, but God can take theirs instantly, and that divine hourglass just ran out while heaven's lightning bolt is already striking. The same hands that tried to dig your grave are now wearing handcuffs. The same mouths that whispered your destruction are now pleading for mercy they never showed, and the same forces they thought would guarantee your downfall have become the very instruments of their eternal imprisonment. While they celebrated in secret boardrooms, toasting what they believed was your permanent exile from relevance, heaven was orchestrating the most elaborate counter-operation in spiritual history. Every attack they launched against you was being redirected, weaponized, and transformed into evidence for their own prosecution. They thought they were playing chess, but you were never even on their board. You were operating from a dimension they couldn't access, protected by forces they refused to acknowledge. The beautiful irony is staggering. They tried to erase a soul that was divinely encoded with immortality, not understanding that your existence wasn't man-made. You weren't created to be liked, approved, or even tolerated. You were assigned. Your presence in their lives wasn't coincidence, it was divine deployment. You were the test they didn't know they were taking, the mirror they couldn't avoid, the trigger that would expose everything they worked so hard to keep buried. Watch how perfectly this unfolds. They violated cosmic law trying to maintain carnal control. They broke universal principles, attempting to bend divine order to their personal agenda. Every scheme they hatched, every lie they spread, every spiritual attack they launched, all of it was rebellion against laws governing the very fabric of reality. And when mortals declare war on immortal principles, the outcome is never in question. Only the timing remains hidden. You were never fighting back because you never needed to. While they exhausted themselves with elaborate plots and midnight ceremonies, you remained connected to the source of all power. Your silence wasn't submission, it was confidence. Your peace in their chaos wasn't naivety, it was divine insulation. Every time they pressed harder, every time they escalated their attacks, they were actually providing more evidence of your supernatural protection. The first cracks are already showing. Chosen one, notice how their former allies are creating distance, how their most loyal defenders are suddenly developing selective amnesia about their associations. This isn't coincidence, this is preservation instinct kicking in as spiritual discernment begins penetrating even the most hardened consciences. They're sensing what's coming before their minds can process it. The same people who once hung on their every word are now questioning their credibility. The same networks that amplified their lies are now fact-checking their statements. The same systems that protected their corruption are now investigating their activities. This isn't human justice catching up. This is divine order reasserting itself through every available channel. Every door they try to close is being forced open by invisible hands. Every story they attempt to bury is being excavated by supernatural archaeology. Every alliance they depend on is being dissolved by forces they cannot see, cannot understand, and certainly cannot control. They're experiencing the systematic dismantling of everything they built through manipulation, and there's absolutely nothing their earthly power can do to stop it. The terror is setting in now, not the kind that comes from external threats, but the deep, bone-chilling fear that emerges when someone realizes they've been fighting forces beyond their comprehension. They thought they were dealing with just another person they could destroy through conventional means. They had no idea they were challenging the architect of reality itself. What's happening now isn't just your vindication, it's cosmic correction. The universe is rebalancing itself, removing obstacles to divine order, realigning spiritual infrastructure that was corrupted by their interference. Every position they stole is being restored to its rightful owner. Every opportunity they blocked is being reopened with compound interest. Every relationship they poison is being purified or replaced with something infinitely better. The intelligence they thought they possessed is being revealed as elaborate self-deception. The connections they believed made them untouchable are being exposed as networks of mutual destruction. The rituals they performed to maintain their power are backfiring with devastating precision, turning their own spiritual weapons against them. They borrowed power they couldn't afford and signed contracts they didn't understand, and now the supernatural collection agencies are foreclosing on their souls. Their attacks weren't destroying you, they were promoting you. Every trap they set forced you to develop new levels of spiritual awareness. Every lie they spread about you created opportunities for truth to demonstrate its superiority. Every door they tried to close led you to passages they never knew existed. They thought they were sabotaging your destiny, but they were actually expediting your elevation. But this goes beyond earthly consequences. Chosen one, the spiritual realm is responding with unprecedented force. Ancient principalities that once protected their operations are withdrawing their covering. Demonic entities that provided intelligence and coordination are turning against their former human partners. The whole supernatural infrastructure that supported their conspiracy is collapsing from within, leaving them exposed to justice they thought they'd escaped forever. This is the hour when divine surveillance goes public. Every secret meeting, every coded conversation, every blood oath sworn in darkness, all of it is being broadcast through channels they cannot block or control. The same technology they used to spread disinformation about you is now amplifying evidence of their own corruption. The same media platforms that once promoted their lies are now featuring documentaries about their crimes. Their handcuffs aren't just physical restraints, they're spiritual symbols of liberation. Every chain they place on your progress is being transferred to their wrists. Every cage they built for your influence is becoming their prison cell. Every grave they dug for your reputation is becoming their public burial ground. The poetic justice is so perfect, it reads like divine literature. The same mouths that spread slander about you are now too terrified to speak at all. The same hands that signed your character assassination orders are now trembling as they sign their own guilty pleas. The same minds that orchestrated your systematic destruction are now consumed with legal strategies and damage control. They're too busy protecting themselves to interfere with your ascension. Your innocence didn't just survive their attacks, it transformed them into testimonies. Every lie they told about you is now evidence of their capacity for deception. Every scheme they hatched against you is now proof of their criminal intent. Every spiritual attack they launched is now documentation of their occult practices. Your survival isn't just personal victory, it's a cosmic vindication of divine justice itself. But vindication is only the beginning, chosen one. What's emerging now is something far more powerful than mere cleared names or restored reputations. This is elevation to levels that make your former struggles look like preparation courses. The same systems that once excluded you are now competing for your participation. The same industries that blacklisted you are now restructuring themselves around your vision. The same communities that rejected you are now desperately seeking your approval. Your voice, which they tried so hard to silence, is now being amplified through platforms they can no longer access. Your influence, which they fought so violently to contain, is now expanding into territories they'll never reach again. Your resources, which they attempted to drain completely, are now multiplying through channels they cannot identify or interfere with. This isn't just recovery, this is supernatural multiplication. Every relationship they severed from your life is being replaced by connections aligned with your true purpose. Every resource they blocked is being restored with interest through unexpected sources. Every platform they denied you is being replaced by stages with global reach. The redistribution of power isn't just happening, it's happening with your name written all over the beneficiary lists. Their former positions of influence are being systematically transferred to those who opposed their corruption. Their financial resources are being redirected toward causes they tried to destroy. Their media platforms are being acquired by entities committed to truth rather than manipulation. The whole apparatus they built for evil is being repurposed for good. with you positioned as one of its primary beneficiaries. This is where your true power reveals itself. Chosen one, not power that destroys or manipulates, but power that transforms and elevates. Not authority built on fear and control, but influence rooted in truth and service. The throne they tried to prevent you from reaching is now yours by divine right, and no earthly force can remove you from it. The same spiritual laws they violated are now working in your favor with compound interest. The same cosmic principles they ignored are now accelerating your advancement beyond their wildest nightmares. The same divine justice they mocked is now establishing your authority in ways that will echo through generations. They spent years trying to stop your rise, never realizing they were actually facilitating your coronation. Your enemies aren't just defeated, they're transformed into involuntary testimonies of divine power. Every person who witnesses their downfall and your simultaneous elevation becomes a living witness to the reality of spiritual justice. Every system that changes hands from their control to your influence becomes a demonstration of cosmic law. Every victory you achieve becomes proof that some battles aren't won by human strength, they're won by the one who controls all strength. This entire saga wasn't just about your vindication or their punishment. It was about demonstrating to a watching world that there are still forces operating beyond human manipulation, still laws that govern moral reality, still justice that sees everything and forgets nothing. Your triumph becomes a beacon of hope for everyone who has ever been betrayed, slandered, or systematically destroyed by those who thought power meant immunity. As the final gavel sounds, not in earthly courtrooms but in chambers of eternal justice, the circle completes itself with devastating perfection. The same divine surveillance that began recording their crimes from day one is now archiving their final sentences. The hands that tried to dig your grave are indeed in handcuffs, but the spiritual implications reach far beyond physical restraints. They couldn't take your life because it was never theirs to take, but the one who gave it to you has demonstrated that he can reclaim theirs in an instant, not through violence or vengeance, but through the simple application of cosmic law. What goes around comes around, and when it does, it brings friends, universal friends, eternal friends, friends with unlimited authority and perfect timing. Your story isn't ending with this vindication, it's beginning. The same God who protected you through the valley is now positioning you on the mountain. The same heaven that recorded every injustice is now orchestrating your elevation. The same justice that struck down your enemies is now establishing your legacy in ways that will transform how future generations understand the relationship between earthly power and divine authority. But let's not sugarcoat it. The truth is still hidden. It's been twisted. It's been buried under censorship, algorithms, and fear. Yet your heart never stopped recognizing what's real. That's why you're still here. That's why you never tapped out, because you felt the simulation glitch beneath your feet. You know this world is rigged, and you're done waiting for permission to rise. The obsidian inner order wasn't built for the curious. It was forged for the committed. This is for the full-time chosen, the ones who came to lead, the ones who see beyond the veil and act anyway. Inside, we hold weekly Zoom calls that cut through the noise. We share hidden teachings most were never meant to hear. We train in psychic warfare, strategy, and spiritual technologies they've kept locked away for centuries. This is the toolkit for the real ones, the ungovernable, the impossible to erase. It's time to remember who you are. The link is in the description. Your real life begins inside. The transformation happening right now goes beyond anything Hollywood could script. Chosen one. Physical courtrooms are just the visible manifestation of judgments already rendered in dimensions they never believed existed. Watch how the same legal systems they thought they owned begin turning against them like trained attack dogs, recognizing their true master. Prosecutors who once looked the other way are suddenly finding courage to pursue cases they previously deemed too complicated or politically sensitive. The evidence materializing isn't just circumstantial, it's overwhelming, undeniable, and perfectly timed to coincide with moments when their guard is down. Bank records they thought were permanently destroyed are being recovered through methods that seem almost supernatural. Digital communications they believed were encrypted beyond detection are being decoded by technologies that appear to work with divine inspiration. Witnesses they assumed would never speak are finding voices they didn't know they possessed. They can't fight what they can't understand. Their expensive legal teams are encountering obstacles that defy conventional explanation. Evidence appears where it shouldn't exist. Testimony emerges from sources that should have remained silent. Jurisdictions that should protect them are suddenly developing aggressive prosecution strategies. It's as if the entire justice system has been reprogrammed with new priorities and unstoppable momentum. The beautiful precision of this divine operation reveals itself in how their own weapons are being turned against them. The same surveillance networks they used to monitor your activities are now documenting their criminal behavior. The same communication systems they employed to coordinate attacks against you are now providing prosecutors with detailed conspiracy evidence. The same financial mechanisms they utilized to fund your destruction are now being traced by forensic accountants who seem to possess almost mystical abilities to follow money through labyrinthine offshore accounts. While earthly authorities prepare physical restraints, something far more devastating is happening in realms they cannot perceive or influence. The spiritual principalities that once protected their operations have withdrawn their covering completely. Ancient entities that provided intelligence and coordination are not just abandoning them, they're actively working against them. The supernatural infrastructure that supported their conspiracy is turning into a cosmic prosecution network. Every ritual they performed in darkness is now being broadcast in the light. Every ceremony they conducted to maintain their power is being exposed as evidence of their occult practices. Every sacrifice they offered to secure their position is being revealed as admission of their spiritual treason. They thought they were invoking protection, but they were actually documenting their rebellion against divine order. The contracts they signed with dark forces are being nullified by higher authority. The spiritual debts they accumulated through decades of corruption are coming due with interest that compounds beyond their ability to pay. The demonic entities they partnered with are demanding immediate settlement, and their currency of choice isn't money, it's souls. They're discovering that spiritual bankruptcy carries consequences that earthly wealth cannot mitigate. The irony is exquisite. They spent years trying to drive you to spiritual breakdown through orchestrated psychological warfare. Now they're experiencing authentic spiritual collapse as forces beyond their control systematically dismantle their sanity. Every weapon they used against your peace is now being deployed against their own minds with exponential intensity. One arrest leads to another confession. One confession leads to another investigation. One investigation leads to another indictment. The cascade effect is unstoppable because it's being orchestrated by intelligence that sees all connections, understands all relationships, and possesses all evidence simultaneously. Human investigators are being guided by supernatural insight that makes them appear almost prophetic in their ability to uncover hidden crimes. Their communication networks are compromised at levels they cannot comprehend. Every phone call, every encrypted message, every supposedly secure meeting, all of it is being monitored by forces that don't require warrants or authorization. Divine surveillance operates with authority that supersedes all earthly jurisdictions and technological limitations. They cannot hide from eyes that see through all dimensions simultaneously. The prosecutors handling their cases are experiencing unusual clarity and determination. Evidence is organizing itself into irrefutable patterns. Witnesses are cooperating with unprecedented willingness. Judges are making decisions that consistently favor justice over influence. It's as if the entire legal system has been infused with supernatural wisdom and courage that makes corruption impossible to sustain. But the physical imprisonment is just the beginning of their punishment, chosen one. The spiritual consequences extend far beyond earthly confinement. Their reputations are being destroyed so thoroughly that their names will become synonyms for corruption. Their legacies are being rewritten as cautionary tales about the dangers of challenging divine authority. Their wealth is being redistributed to causes they opposed. Their power is being transferred to people they persecuted. Their influence is being channeled toward purposes they tried to prevent. Every position they held through manipulation is being filled by someone who earned it through integrity. Every project they funded through corruption is being redirected toward genuine humanitarian purposes. Every institution they controlled through intimidation is being liberated to serve its original mission. The systemic change happening isn't just removing bad actors, it's installing divine representatives in positions of authority. Their attempts to silence your voice have resulted in amplification systems they never imagined possible. The platforms they denied you access to are being replaced by global networks that carry your message to audiences they could never reach. The resources they withheld from you are being multiplied through channels they cannot monitor or intercept. Every blessing they tried to block is returning with compound interest and supernatural acceleration. The beautiful thing about divine justice is its efficiency. Chosen one. It doesn't just punish the guilty, it simultaneously rewards the innocent. It doesn't just remove obstacles, it creates opportunities. It doesn't just expose corruption, it establishes righteousness. Every action taken against your enemies becomes an action taken for your advancement. Your elevation isn't just personal vindication, it's a cosmic demonstration. Every person who witnesses their downfall and your simultaneous rise becomes a living testimony to the reality of divine justice. Every system that transfers from their control to your influence becomes evidence of supernatural intervention. Every victory you achieve becomes proof that spiritual laws govern earthly outcomes more completely than most people dare to believe. The sentences being imposed extend far beyond earthly courts and physical prisons. Their punishment encompasses dimensions they never knew existed, realms where appeals are impossible and pardons are unavailable. They're facing justice that operates with perfect knowledge, absolute authority, and eternal perspective. Every crime they commit in darkness is being judged in the light of complete truth. Their legacy of destruction is being transformed into your legacy of restoration. Every life they tried to ruin is being rebuilt with supernatural resources. Every dream they attempt to kill is being resurrected with divine power. Every purpose they work to prevent is being fulfilled with heavenly backing. The contrast between their downfall and your elevation serves as permanent testimony to the reality of cosmic justice. They couldn't take your life because it was never theirs to take. Your existence was authorized by the highest court in the universe, sealed with divine approval, and protected by forces that never sleep, never tire, and never fail. Every breath you draw is evidence of their powerlessness against heaven's will. Meanwhile, the one who gave you life has demonstrated that he can reclaim theirs in an instant, not through violence or vengeance, but through the simple withdrawal of divine protection that has kept them alive despite their rebellion. They've been living on borrowed time, existing through mercy they didn't deserve, breathing through grace they actively opposed. Now that grace period has expired, and the natural consequences of their choices are manifesting with terrifying clarity. Welcome to your era of undeniable supremacy, chosen one. The surveillance footage has been reviewed in chambers of eternal justice. The verdict has been rendered by judges who cannot be bribed or intimidated, and the sentence has been executed by forces that answer only to divine authority. They're going to jail, in dimensions both visible and invisible, while you ascend to heights they could never reach, protected by power they never understood, empowered by justice they never escaped. The prison doors swinging shut behind them are the same doors opening for your complete liberation. The handcuffs restraining their hands are symbols of the freedom being restored to yours. The sentences they're serving are the very vindication you've been waiting for. Divine justice doesn't just punish rebellion, it establishes righteous authority in its place. The courtroom of eternity has spoken its final word, and its judgment reverberates through every realm of existence. Touch not the anointed, for heaven keeps perfect records. Divine justice never sleeps, and cosmic law always prevails. They couldn't take your life, but life itself has taken them. The great reversal is complete. The eternal verdict stands, and your dominion begins now. The facilities awaiting them aren't just correctional institutions. They're monuments to divine justice, physical reminders of what happens when finite beings challenge infinite authority. Behind those steel bars and concrete walls, they'll have plenty of time to contemplate the magnitude of their miscalculation. No amount of commissary money can purchase peace when conscience becomes prosecutor, judge, and jury all at once. Their former allies are distancing themselves so rapidly it creates a vacuum of abandonment around each defendant. Phone calls go unanswered. Visitation lists remain empty. Legal bills pile up while bank accounts freeze under asset forfeiture orders. The isolation they tried to create around you has become their own reality, amplified by the knowledge that their abandonment is deserved while yours never was. Watch how their prison experiences differ from ordinary inmates. Chosen one. They're not just serving time, they're serving as examples. Other prisoners sense something different about them, something that makes even hardened criminals uncomfortable. There's an aura of spiritual judgment that follows them through corridors and cafeterias, making genuine connections impossible. They're isolated not just by their crimes, but by the supernatural consequences that cling to them like invisible chains. The guards treating them aren't just corrections officers, they're unknowing agents of divine justice, ensuring that every aspect of their confinement serves the higher purpose of cosmic balance. Sleep doesn't bring rest when dreams are invaded by visions of their victims' vindication. Meals don't provide comfort when guilt destroys appetite. Recreation doesn't offer relief when every moment of leisure becomes an opportunity for regret to multiply. Their wealth, accumulated through decades of exploitation and manipulation, is evaporating faster than morning mist under the sun of divine scrutiny. Forensic accountants with supernatural insight are tracing money through financial networks that would confuse artificial intelligence. Offshore accounts they believed were impenetrable are being accessed by authorities who seem to possess divine passwords for every encrypted system. The beautiful irony intensifies as their stolen resources are being redirected toward the very causes they fought against. Funds they embezzled from charitable organizations are being returned with interest that defies mathematical explanation. Money they laundered through shell corporations is being distributed to humanitarian projects they tried to sabotage. Their financial empire, built on the suffering of others, is becoming the foundation for healing they never intended to facilitate. Civil lawsuits are materializing from victims they forgot existed, people whose lives they destroyed so casually that the damage barely registered in their consciousness. Each legal filing represents not just monetary liability, but another weight added to the scales of justice that are tipping decisively against them. Class action attorneys are discovering patterns of harm that span decades, creating legal exposure that exceeds their net worth by astronomical margins. Their families are experiencing the financial consequences of generational corruption. Trust funds established for their children are being seized to compensate victims. Real estate purchased with illegal proceeds is being auctioned to satisfy judgment creditors. Art collections, luxury vehicles, and private jets are being liquidated to fund restitution payments that will continue long after their deaths. Stress-related illnesses are consuming their bodies at rates that baffle prison medical staff. Conditions that should respond to treatment remain stubbornly resistant, as if their physical forms are rejecting healing while spiritual toxicity courses through their systems. High blood pressure, insomnia, digestive disorders, and anxiety attacks become their constant companions, providing physical testimony to the spiritual poison they've consumed through years of wickedness. Their minds are deteriorating under pressure that medical science cannot fully explain or treat. Psychiatrists prescribe medications that provide no relief from the torment that originates in dimensions beyond pharmaceutical reach. Therapy sessions become exercises in futility as trained professionals encounter psychological damage that requires spiritual intervention they're not equipped to provide. The aging process accelerates dramatically once divine protection is withdrawn. Hair grays overnight, skin develops lines that weren't there before sentencing, and vitality drains away like water through a broken vessel. They're experiencing in months what should take years, as if time itself is conspiring to compress their remaining earthly existence into the smallest possible space. Their children and grandchildren are discovering that association with their legacy carries consequences that extend beyond social embarrassment. Opportunities that should be available based on qualifications alone are mysteriously withdrawn. Educational institutions that once welcomed their family name are now conducting enhanced background checks that reveal uncomfortable connections. Professional networks spanning generations are suddenly excluding anyone bearing their surnames. The spiritual contamination they created doesn't respect bloodlines or legal distinctions. Family members who had no direct involvement in their crimes are experiencing unexplained setbacks, health issues, and relationship problems. It's as if the curse they brought upon themselves is radiating outward, affecting everyone within their sphere of influence. Only through complete renunciation of their methods and genuine repentance can their relatives hope to break free from the generational consequences. As their earthly sentences progress, something even more terrifying awaits beyond the prison walls. Their crimes against heaven carry penalties that earthly courts cannot impose, judgments that physical death cannot escape. The same divine authority that orchestrated their earthly downfall has prepared eternal consequences that make their current suffering seem like minor inconvenience by comparison. Their names are being written in books they never knew existed, recorded in registries maintained in realms they never acknowledged. Every act of cruelty, every moment of malice, every decision to harm the innocent, all of it is being prepared as evidence for trials that will occur in courtrooms where appeals are impossible, and mercy must be earned through genuine transformation. But even in their darkest hour, divine grace offers one final opportunity for redemption. True repentance, complete confession, and genuine transformation could still alter their eternal trajectory. However, pride hardened by years of rebellion makes such transformation increasingly unlikely. They're discovering that prison bars are easier to bend than hearts calcified by prolonged rebellion against divine authority. The clock ticks toward their ultimate accountability, chosen one, while your elevation continues unabated. Their imprisonment, both physical and spiritual, stands as permanent testimony to the truth you've always known. Divine justice may seem delayed, but it's never denied. They couldn't take your life because it belongs to eternity, but eternity has definitely taken theirs. The final chapter of their story is being written in handcuffs and orange jumpsuits, while yours is being authored in golden ink across heaven's victory scrolls.